And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, see you guys already coming in there, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button so you can stay connected with all of our program. We have some amazing things coming up in March. Going to be traveling to 5 different cities in the month of March and taking you guys along with us on Amazon, including a very special show that's dealing with March Madness. So definitely make sure you guys hit that follow button. You'll see it here in this corner or down below. You also see some of the books, and I do stress some of the books from our next guest. We're excited to welcome back Dr. Velma Bagby to our broadcast. You guys know her. She's an individual who's been able to write a best-selling series called The Catch Series. You guys can see book number 1 is here, The Catch No One Wants. Also, of course, we're going to be talking to her about the latest book, which is The Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House, and what she has coming up for you guys. We are simulcasting our broadcast today, so we welcome our audience tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. But Dr. Velma, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be back.
It is always a lot of fun. I should let our audience know that the last time you were on with us, we had an exclusive with yourself and Dr. Bruce Bagby as well. Hey, Jacqueline, good to be able to see you as well on the Facebook side. So I want to talk about that experience. You and I haven't actually had a chance to talk since you guys were on. What was it like for you? For one, to bring husband to work, but also to be able to talk about your own journey with love and marriage on the show.
Well, first of all, my husband is usually at work with me. He's somewhere in the vicinity listening and enjoying the show. But that was the first time he made a commitment to join me, and I loved it. And what a perfect time to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary. And so many of the readers had asked about him because they've heard me talk about Grayson and me modeling some of Grayson's character from him. And so many of the readers couldn't wait to meet my husband. And so it turned out very well. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. The show did very well. Jacqueline says it was great. A great show with Papa Bruce. I love that show. Thank you for that, Jacqueline. And Melissa says hello. Hello to you, Melissa. Is joining us on the Facebook side. She says hello to you as well. Let's see. Jacqueline says Cyrus had me in tears. Oh, well, I hope that's in a good way. Oh, she says, yes, he laughed so hard. Yeah.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun for me. And it was a great show. But it was so appropriate, Dr. Velma, because because of the brand you're building with this series of books, this best-selling series, people are going to be more curious about you, right? And to know about your own journey with marriage and love. So I think it was great for those who have not gone and read the book. We're not going to talk about it too much here, but My 70s Love Story, you guys have to pick it up. If I don't have it in the carousel already, I will make sure we drop it in there because I think you guys should definitely read it. So for yourself, before we get back into the Catch series, Dr. Velma, talk to us about that. Because, I was quoting last time some parts from that book. What was it like for you to kind of reflect on the journey to how you got where you are today?
Oh, you made us laugh. My husband and I were still talking about that after our interview. And by the way, he's heard you and I interview together, but he's not met you in person. He really enjoyed your personality and enjoyed that moment. You made him feel very comfortable. Good. But just talking about some of the things that you referenced in the book just brought back memories for us because we lived those moments. And so it was really fun to talk about it.
So for our audience, because we're always picking up, this is the fun thing about doing this broadcast, especially on different platforms, Dr. Velma. We will always find people, and I talk to people I interview about this, people will always meet you at zero, right? You may have been 8 books into something, but there will always be somebody who comes along and says, hey, what are y'all talking about, right? How did this all start when it comes to the Catch series? Take our audience back to how it all began.
It began with, first of all, it wasn't my plan. As Dream by Design, Melissa Banks would say, you dream it, you say it all the time, you chase after your goal. This wasn't my goal. I retired and I thought that was going to be it for me. And, I wrote a lot on the job in my role as a deputy administrator, but this wasn't my goal. It was my oldest daughter and youngest daughter who encouraged me to write because the conversations we were having about men. And so it was them that encouraged me to write. I still was not convinced that was something I needed to continue to do until I got the response from the readers. And even before I released that very first book, based on our conversations together, I did speak in a variety of church opportunities, church events that I was invited out to. I said, well, you know what? Let me test out and see if people really want to hear what I have to say about the current state of things as it relates to dating and relationship, or I call it dating for marriage, because we're not talking high school dating. And I was just overwhelmed and shocked by the reaction. And that told me, well, maybe this is not just a one book wonder. Maybe this is something I'm supposed to do. And so I tested again. Once I changed genre with the Catch series, I knew that what I wanted to write about were stories that will allow people to discover their own situations in the stories versus me preaching at them in a non-fiction book. I just wanted to weave it the way Jesus weaved the parables. And that's how it got started. And I was overwhelmed again with the response that people had towards that very first book, The Catch No One Wants. And that told me I was supposed to stay on this journey.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you just said that's interesting because it ties into what we're seeing in the world right now. And you mentioned the type of dating. Like you said, you're talking about dating for marriage, not what you call high school dating, or what I call is that people who date for entertainment, which I've never fully understand, because to me, this is my opinion, that to me cheapens what marriage is supposed to even be about, that dating is supposed to even be about. What has that been like for you to, through this series, even though you're not preaching at them, Dr. Velma, what has it been like for you to get them to maybe even rethink the way they look at dating?
Well, first of all, that's a practice that's only been a practice just a couple of 100 years old. So really what we had was the biblical form of dating. You dated because this is a person you saw yourself living with for the rest of your life. Well, we adopted this current method of what I call high school dating, which is only just about 200 years old. And all it does is just leaves you with a path of broken disappointments, hurt, all of the things, you name it, that's what it does. When really high school is simply just being social, having friendships. That's all. When I met my husband in 10th grade, I wasn't looking for a husband. I followed the instructions to create the husband to be prayerless because that's what our teacher told us to do. But I was not looking for a husband. My mind was on achieving my goals, going off to college, getting off my mom's payroll, all the things that I wanted to accomplish, And so it just takes our focus away from the way things are supposed to be. And people have forgotten the blueprint that God has already given us to discover our mates.
So true. Jacqueline has a comment here. It says, she says, for people who may not be readers to see their chemistry on your show, it makes them want to read her books. Oh, thank you for that, Jack. I appreciate that. But she says it gave more authentic insight on their marriage, talking about you being on with Dr. Bruce. So I think that is and the reason why I wanted to ask you that is we kind of talk about the series, for those who are just finding out about the series, because that really sets up the first book, The Catch No One Wants, because who we meet there, Veronica. And I have to say, I say it to you every time, but anytime someone asks me about you, Dr. Velma, I really smile, because I think what's so interesting, I love a series that shows an arc. The Veronica we see in this book is not the Veronica we see, from book to book. And to see that growth, to see her maturity, and to see her willingness to not only be vulnerable, but also to help others, I think is so important. What has that been, since this was not your plan, what has that been like for you, Dr. Velma, to see her on her growth?
First of all, I sat down with one of my, what I call experts, who has a very prominent book career. And one of the things she suggested was a series. And I even sat down with another strategist to develop what that series would look like. And I said to myself, I'm not writing a series. I'm not ready to do any of that. First of all, I was jumping into a brand new genre, Christian contemporary fiction. I wanted to see how that was going to work. I set out to write one book after the first book, and that was The Catch No One Wants. I had no idea that it was destined to become a series. So it did that on its own. I didn't plan that. And I knew that was what I was supposed to do. So that's what it was like for me, a surprise every step of the way.
Gotcha. And you followed up The Catch No One Wants. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for those tuning in on the Amazon side with The Wrong Catch that is here, which we've had some great conversations about. But Dr. Velma, I want to spend some time talking about this book, The Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House, which is the newest book in the series. You all can get, as you guys can see there, the paperback or the Kindle edition for $4.99 there. So make sure you guys too take advantage of that. Okay, so I mentioned to you that the character I wanted to kind of spend some time talking about today is Frankie the Firefly. I'm going to get into that. I want to talk about, for those who are new to the series, so they kind of get an idea, what we saw in the first book, The Catch No One Wants, is a father and daughter, Grayson and Veronica, being able to have real conversations about what you being ready for marriage, first of all, yourselves.
Right.
And not just the man, but also Veronica herself, knowing if she
Yes.
was ready. And then
Yes.
we saw in The Wrong Catch, her being able to help other women to be able to make the same type of changes and to know, of course, what to look out for too. And then we have the third book, the Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House, where Grayson is able to help the guys as well. So I want to talk about that because I've said before you came out with this book, Dr. Velma, you may remember I said, us guys, we get a bad rap sometimes. You know, just like in The Wrong Catch, there are some women who always want to put it on the man. Well, the reason this didn't work is because of that man. You know, that man just wouldn't do right. Or that man, or we're expected to forgive the woman's mistakes and shortcomings, but we're not supposed to acknowledge that we have some too. And so talk. What was it like for you going into She'll Tear Down the House?
It was an interesting journey because the first thing I needed to do was, many of the readers said, please bring the fish back. So even when I announced that I was going to do something different with this third book, they were still saying, bring the fish back. So I was in a place where I knew I could not use fish again. So what do I do with the women? What do I use? So I began to research. And lo and behold, as I researched insects, several of them stood out to me. I knew exactly the characters that would match them. And then animals. And then the one that surprised me was the church doll. I said, am I going to include that? I said, I guess I am. People are going to be curious about the church doll. What is she and what did she do? So that's how it came to be.
Jacqueline said the antelope chapter was one was one as well. So let's talk about Frankie the Firefly. And the reason why I chose this one is because we as men, and I wasn't actually raised this way, I have to say. I was raised by a very strong mother, but also a father who was in the picture. My stepfather, who was just like my dad. He's been in my life since I was 5 years old. But it was interesting reading The Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House, because I thought to myself, it is so easy. We as men, we always do try to fix. In my professional world, before you all knew me in this profession, I literally worked as a crisis manager before I got into broadcast and everything. So I literally was a professional fixer. That was what I was brought in to do for situations.
Okay.
But
professional fixer.
Yeah, so it's worked well for me in this area too. But I digress, though. But
no, it isn't. That's actually a characteristic of a man. He's a fixer.
Yeah, but it made me think about the chapter where you talk about this very point, and that is what we need to know about Frankie the Firefly, because as we're able to kind of watch what unfolds on video in the book, at least, we're able to know the things that should have been warning signs. But I want to actually read something on page 117 for those who have the paperback edition. I have it highlighted for you guys on the carousel on Amazon. There, Dr. Velma writes this: the moral of my story, my life with Frankie the Firefly continued to be unhealthy. I believe God will provide a way of escape if we pay attention. Did you hear the story of the helicopter? A man was living in the middle of a stormy season that caused a flood. He stood on his porch praying God would answer his need. A boat stopped by and offered to give him a ride. He told the boat owner, no, thank you, God will help me. The flood water began to flood the house, so he got on top of the roof. The helicopter flew overhead and offered to get him off the roof. He told the operator, no, thank you, God will help me. Then the flood waters covered the rooftop and the man died. Once in heaven, he asked God why he didn't save him. God responded, who do you think sent the boat and the helicopter? And then you wrote this, Dr. Bam, and this is what I want to talk to you about. God sent help, but the man refused to take advantage of it. I took advantage of the help God sent me through Pastor Grayson and a psychologist. I did the work, but Frankie the Firefly didn't. The next help God sent me was a move-in special to secure an apartment in a new complex.
Away from her.
Right. So I want to talk about that because we as men, and some women too, but I just speak from, from
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
we sometimes don't like to admit that we've messed up. And we do try to find ways, especially if we feel like we're good guys, right?
Yeah.
We want to feel like, you know what, I did everything I could. I did everything I could. What was it like for you in crafting that story, Dr. Velma? Not only, of course, about the Frankie the Firefly, but the man that could not, that it almost took, ruining everything to kind of get the picture.
Yeah, I think that's what happens a lot of times. Again, men being fixers, you can't fix the other person, the other party. The job of fixing is fixing you first,
Yeah.
and then work on the areas of your household and your lives together. But the problem with her is she was one of the narcissistic women, remember? And I said the reason I felt that was important to include several characters who are narcissistic, because we always talk about the narcissistic men, not the narcissistic women. And yet they're really more sly and underhanded and slick about who they are. They present themselves one way and it turns out to be another way. But had he used the tools better, had he used the appropriate ways to discover the red flags and really examine her heart closer, he would not have gotten into this situation. He just would not. And that was really the moral of the whole story.
There was another point, though, in this. And if our audience, if they're reading it too quickly, they may have missed it, Dr. Velma. I, as someone who believes very firmly, as someone who is, I think you know this, I know my audience knows I'm a suicide attempt survivor, that I believe in professional help. I don't think that makes you any less of a person of faith or less of a Christian to get it. I hope people saw that not only was it Pastor Grayson that helped them, but he saw a psychologist too. Why was that important for you to mention with him?
Because people assume that pastors and leaders of the church are skilled in every aspect. No, they may be skilled in helping you to identify what the issues are and the challenges, but they definitely should refer you to someone who's more qualified to continue to walk with you through the process for you to move away from it and overcome it. And I think that's respectful, to know what you can do. Sometimes laying hands and praying you through is not what you need. Sometimes you need to sit in the office of a professional and deal with and face those issues that you have first. God, again, that is a helicopter. That is the boat.
Yeah.
He sent professionals for that reason. And so we have to accept that. And as African Americans, we do not lean towards that kind of help at all.
Yeah. Hello, Team Midnight. It's Book Bar. Good to see you. And I want to say this too. Some people aren't going to like it, but hey, it's the truth is the truth because I've experienced it. And some people will judge you by saying that you have less faith because you're going to see a doctor, or which to me sounds very crazy, but some people really believe that.
I still say God created doctors.
Yeah.
God created them with the expertise that they have. God sent us help when he knew the church and the church leaders couldn't help you. That's beyond their scope. And if we learn to operate in the lane we've been given, we'll recognize God every step of the way. And so that's the problem. We turn away from those kind of things. Some things won't be moved by prayer. Some things will be moved by professional help and prayer.
Yeah.
Because we skip, again, just like I said, Cyrus, we forget that the helicopter could be the psychologist. The helicopter could be the doctor. And you're saying to God, I don't want to be helped that way. Send another way. Yeah. So that's what I have to say about that. And that's why it's important.
And that's really why I wanted to pick up on this for this conversation, Dr. Velma, because I thought to myself, I mean, who was able to help that individual be able to navigate that helicopter in that boat? And I think a lot of times there are gifts in men. And that for some people, the psychologists are that gift in men that they need. Hello to you, Myra. Myra is on Facebook. She says hello. And Jacqueline says mental health is needed. It definitely is needed, Jacqueline. And that's why I was so interested that you chose this book. This book really, I think, is my favorite in the series.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm being totally honest. Yeah. Because there were so many things you did I did not expect. Like I've harped on already ad nauseum, I believe, the fact that Grayson connecting with the men, we don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
in literature today.
Yeah.
Christian fiction or not, we don't see that type of acknowledgement of who
Mm-hmm.
you are and what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
That you mentioned, even though it wasn't a big part of the story, just mentioning that, like, that normalized it.
Yeah.
That he was able to say and not have shame about saying, I saw Pastor Grayson and I saw a psychologist. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I agree.
And so for me, hey man, it's welcome to be able to see you as well. So I want to ask about that
Yeah.
for yourself. How did you decide what ingredients you wanted to have? Because you had different ingredients in the setting with these men and Dr. Grayson than you had with Dr. Grayson and the women in the Wrong Catch. How did you decide what you wanted to include in these conversations?
Cyrus, I owed it to the men who allowed me to interview them to build the basis of this book and the characters. I owed it to them. I owed it to my husband who said, when will you write a book that will address some of the challenges that men have? Yeah. I owed it to the men in my family who I've watched experience some of the things we talk about in the book. And it saddened me to watch those kind of mistakes still happening today. And it's because we're not talking about it anymore. And so all of that were resting on my shoulders as I created these stories. So that's why we wrote those things. For instance, the church doll, that was something I remember seeing as a kid. Growing up, I didn't understand it, but I did later on in life. So all of that, I thought, to integrate some truth in there and weave those stories in a way that people will recognize these as real life issues and real life challenges. So if they're real life challenges and issues, although in a fictional book, it's important to show real life action and things that we should do if we're faced with these kind of things.
Yeah, such a great thing. Jacqueline says women needed to read this to understand why they get to the point to become the fish they are. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And so that leads us to, our time is already going. So that leads us to what's to come. This always happens.
I know you do that. You do that, Cyrus.
Wait a minute, I do. I thought we just talked about not blaming the man.
Well, in this particular case, I'm gonna blame the host. Just kidding.
I would take that. I would take that.
I'm in the midst of working on book 4.
Look, that's what that was what I was going to segue into. So, with that being said, I know it was kind of set up in this book. What are you looking forward to? I'm not going to ask you any details, but what are you looking forward to in continuing the series?
Did you say continuing the series?
You said you're working on book 4.
Were you giving me instructions and directions?
No. I'm just saying. You said you were working on
the series, Cyrus.
No. You said you're working on book 4, so that's why I was just asking. Yes, what are you looking forward to sharing in the next book? Maybe I say it that way.
I'm looking forward to sharing success stories.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. We've had these conferences. Now, what has come out of it?
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like what we saw in The Wrong Catch, in this one, we're able to see the man that was able to come back and so talk about what he used to be like. Oh, I like it. I like it.
To meet others. Yes.
Nice.
Because if we're given the pattern and the blueprint, what have you done with it? So now you get to hear what people have done with them and what successes they've experienced.
I like that. This is my first time hearing this. Midnight's Book Bar says that would be great. I agree, Midnight's Book Bar. I like that. I like that a lot. So I want to make sure I get this in. So outside of writing these series, you also are doing speaking. You are doing workshops. So what else should our audience be on the lookout for from you, Dr. Velma?
Well, I have been in conversation with my publicist, and I can't mention his name because there's a conflict on this show.
Oh, okay.
But I think many of you listening, you know who that person is. I postponed Dr. Velma Talks for a minute because that was one of my one of the areas I was encouraged to bring back, and I postponed it to finish my class. I'm in a speaking class right now, so I'm finishing that up, working on my my speaking topics a little more so that I can hone in on creating half an hour, 45-minute conversations around a particular thing. So that's what I've been working on. I wanted to get through that first. And lo and behold, what did the teacher say in the middle of the class? Okay, I want you guys out there and creating lives and going, oh my gosh, I like Cyrus.
Yeah,
So,
where have you heard that before?
I heard it. I postponed it. I'm resurrecting it. And so
Yeah,
thankful that I have my graphic already ready. Thankful
good.
to one of your clients who helped me. And
Mhm.
I'm going to be moving forward with that. So
Love
they
it.
um, are able to go onto my website and subscribe. You'll get to hear all about the release times and when it's going to begin. Because it looks like I'm going to split some of the Dr. Velma Talks time for married couples only. So I'm looking at Mondays for that. Some people really want to know. That's one of the things we found out for our 50th wedding anniversary. So many people want to know, how did you do it? What did you do? We were looking at a car for our anniversary gift, and the salesman says, "Tell me, what's your secret? What's one
Wow.
word?" I said, "I'll give you one word: compromise. It cannot be
Love
all
it.
about you. You
Cannot be
have
all
to
about
be
you.
able to compromise and make adjustments." And so that was one of the things. So I have to be able to talk about that, as well as keeping to my commitment to help singles. And that's going to be the second one. So twice a week, I'm going live.
Love that. Chanel, hello to you. Chanel says hello to you, Dr. V, as well.
Now,
Melissa says, love it. Well, another great conversation with you, Dr. Velma, as it always is. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest. Make sure you guys get the 3 books in the Catch series that are out now, beginning with the Catch No One Wants. You guys can see it there. I highlighted again the carousel for you guys there. Then, of course, followed up by the Wrong Catch. You all can see there. I'll highlight that one for you guys. I did, while we were talking, at the book that I mentioned earlier, My 70s Love Story. It is in the carousel as well for those who have not gotten it. You can get it for 99 cents. And then the newest book in the series is this one, The Wrong Catch Shall Tear Down the House. All of them here on Amazon as well. Dr. Velma, you mentioned, of course, them signing up and staying connected. Give out the website again, please.
is drvelmabagby.com.
All right. Dr.
And then to
Velma,
find out about other projects that I have going on, because I have an anthology I'm participating in and 2 speaking engagements, and I'm looking forward to both of them in April and May. So if you want to stay connected, please do so. And I'm on all social media platforms.
Love that. Love that. So you see how she got all that in there? See, she's a professional. She knows how to get Dr.
Is that
Velma.
what I did?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Just get it all
Well,
up in there. Dr. Velma, always a pleasure. Looking forward to our next chat together.
thank you. I appreciate having this conversation with a professional fixer.
That's my other life. My other life. But we thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you all soon. You all take care.
Thanks, everybody.